The scent of simmering garlic and oregano, a fragrance that had been the backdrop to my entire life, now felt like a taunt. It was the ghost of my father, Leo, a phantom limb of a past where our family was whole, where La Lanterna d'Oro, the golden lantern, was a beacon of warmth and not the stage for a bitter family tragedy. From across the street, I watched my brothers, Marco and Gino, flit about inside, their movements clumsy and graceless, a pale imitation of the effortless ballet our father once performed in his domain. They had the keys, the deed, the name. What they didn't have, what they'd so callously discarded, was the secret ingredient, and it wasn't on the menu. Papa Leo hadn't just been a chef. He was the soul of La Lanterna d'Oro. He'd built it from a hole-in-the-wall trattoria into a beloved neighborhood institution, a place where checkered tablecloths bore witness to first dates, anniversaries, and quiet Tuesday night dinners that felt like celebrations. He moved through the kitchen with a dancer's grace, a pinch of salt here, a swirl of olive oil there, his hands conducting a symphony of flavors. But his real magic, the ingredient that made his pasta sing and his sauces weep with flavor, was his heart. He knew every regular by name, their stories woven into the very fabric of the restaurant. He remembered that Mrs. Rossi's arthritis flared in the damp weather and would have a bowl of his steaming minestrone ready for her before she even ordered. He knew that Mr. Chen, a quiet man who always dined alone, had a fondness for Sinatra, and a soft melody would always find its way to the speakers when he walked in. He celebrated his customers' triumphs and offered a silent, comforting presence during their sorrows. He wasn't just feeding their stomachs, he was nourishing their souls. Marco and Gino, my older brothers, had always seen the restaurant differently. They saw it not as a legacy, but as a ledger. Marco, with his slicked-back hair and suits that were always a size too tight, was the numbers man. He saw inventory, profit margins, and overheads. Gino, the charmer, with a smile as wide and shallow as a puddle, saw the front of the house as his personal stage, a place to glad hand and schmooze, to be seen as the magnanimous host. They had chafed under Papa's old-fashioned ways, his generosity, his insistence on quality over cost-cutting. When Papa passed, his will was simple. The restaurant was to be shared equally among his 3 children. But I was the youngest, the quiet one, the one who had inherited Papa's love for the craft, but not his commanding presence. Before the ink on the death certificate was dry, Marco and Gino had cornered me. They painted a grim picture of impending bankruptcy, of the restaurant being a financial sinkhole. They offered me a buyout, a pittance disguised as a lifeline. "It's for the best, Sophia," Marco had said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Let us handle the stress. You wouldn't want to tarnish Papa's memory by running it into the ground." I was grieving, lost in a fog of sorrow, and they exploited it. I signed the papers, the legal jargon a blur of betrayal I couldn't yet comprehend. They became the sole proprietors of La Lanterna d'Oro, and I, the daughter who had spent her childhood at Papa's side, learning the delicate art of folding tortellini, the secret to his slow simmered ragu, was cast out. The changes were immediate and brutal. The warm, inviting glow of the golden lantern that hung above the door was replaced by a harsh, sterile neon sign that screamed, "Under new management." The checkered tablecloths vanished, replaced by cold, laminated menus that felt sticky to the touch. The prices went up, the portions went down. The fresh, locally sourced ingredients Papa had insisted upon were swapped for cheaper frozen alternatives. The heart of La Lanterna d'Oro had been ripped out, and its soulless corpse was now being paraded as a modern, efficient business. I watched from afar, my heart a leaden weight in my chest. I took a job at a small bakery a few blocks away, the scent of yeast and sugar a poor substitute for the rich, complex aromas of my childhood. But it was there, in the quiet rhythm of kneading dough and decorating pastries, that my grief began to morph into a slow-burning rage. The reports from the neighborhood were a steady drumbeat of disappointment. Mrs. Rossi, her eyes welling with tears, told me how Gino had brusquely informed her that they no longer made special orders. Mr. Chen, I heard, had stopped coming altogether. The regulars, Papa's extended family, were being replaced by a transient crowd of tourists drawn in by the new, flashy sign and leaving with a sense of bland, overpriced disappointment. My brothers were oblivious. They saw the initial spike in profits from their cost-cutting measures as a vindication of their business acumen. They were too busy counting their money to notice the slow, steady erosion of the restaurant's soul. It was during a particularly bleak and rainy afternoon, as I was frosting a tray of cannoli, that the idea, the seed of my revenge, began to take root. It wasn't enough to see them fail. I wanted them to understand why they were failing. I wanted them to be confronted with the ghost of the father they had so thoroughly disrespected. My plan was not one of sabotage, of health code violations, or vicious online reviews. That was their style, not mine. My revenge would be a tribute to my father, a resurrection of his legacy in the very shadow of their greed. I started small. I began a pop-up lunch service from the back of the bakery, a single handwritten sign on the door announcing Sophia's Table. I cooked the dishes Papa had taught me, the ones my brothers had deemed too time-consuming, too unprofitable. I made his tortellini in brodo, the delicate parcels of meat floating in a rich, golden broth that had taken 8 hours to simmer. I made his gnocchi with a simple fresh tomato and basil sauce, the potato dumplings as light as air. I used the finest ingredients, the ones Papa had always sought out at the local market. Word spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Mrs. Rossi was my first customer, her face lighting up as she tasted the minestrone, a taste of a memory she thought was lost forever. Mr. Chin, hearing the whispers, appeared one day, a hesitant smile on his face. I made him his favorite, Papa's Osso Buco, and put a Sinatra record on the small portable speaker I had brought from home. He ate in silence, a single tear tracing a path down his weathered cheek. Soon, Sophia's Table became the talk of the town. My little pop-up was a culinary sensation, a pocket of warmth and authenticity in a world of increasingly bland and impersonal dining experiences. I wasn't just selling food, I was selling nostalgia, a connection to a time when a meal was more than just a transaction. I was selling the secret ingredient, love. The irony was delicious. My brothers, in their gleaming, soulless restaurant, were struggling. Their initial profits had plummeted as the novelty of their new La Lanterna d'Oro wore off, replaced by a reputation for mediocrity. They tried promotions, 2-for-1 deals, happy hours with cheap, watered-down wine. But they couldn't replicate the magic because they didn't understand its source. The climax of my quiet crusade came on the anniversary of Papa's passing. I had planned a special dinner at Sophia's Table, a tribute to my father. I had invited all of his old regulars, the people who had been the lifeblood of La Lanterna d'Oro. I had also, through a carefully worded anonymous tip to a local food blogger, ensured that the city's most influential culinary critic would be in attendance. That evening, as the aroma of my father's recipes filled the small bakery, a sense of profound peace settled over me. This was not about revenge anymore. It was about honoring his memory, about proving that what he had built was not just a business, but a community. The food critic's review was a love letter. He wrote of the soul-stirring flavors, the palpable sense of love and community, the ghost of a master at work. He called Sophia's Table the hidden gem of the city, a place where food is not just consumed, but experienced. He also, in a devastatingly brilliant turn of phrase, lamented the hollow shell of the once great La Lanterna d'Oro, a restaurant that had lost its way, its heart, its very reason for being. The review was a death blow to my brother's already floundering enterprise. Their bookings dried up completely. Their suppliers, emboldened by their public shaming, began demanding cash on delivery. The bank, which had so eagerly financed their modernization, was now threatening to foreclose. The final confrontation was not a screaming match, but a quiet, pathetic surrender. They came to the bakery, their faces pale and drawn, the arrogance stripped away, leaving behind only the hollow shells of the men they had become. Marco, the numbers man, couldn't understand the figures. Gino, the charmer, had no one left to charm. "How did you do it, Sophia?" Gino asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. "What did you put in the food?" I looked at them, not with triumph, but with a profound and weary sadness. "I didn't put anything in the food, Gino," I said softly. "I put it in the room. The secret ingredient wasn't a spice or a technique. It was Papa. It was the love he had for his food, for his customers, for this community. You didn't just steal a restaurant from me, you stole it from him. And a restaurant without a heart is just a room with tables." They left without another word, the weight of their failure a tangible presence in the small, fragrant bakery. A few weeks later, the neon sign of La Lanterna d'Oro was extinguished for good. The bank took possession, and the once vibrant space became another empty storefront on a street full of them. But the story of La Lanterna d'Oro didn't end there. With a small business loan, secured by a legion of loyal customers who had become my investors, I bought the old restaurant back. I hung the golden lantern above the door, its warm light a beacon once more. I brought back the checkered tablecloths, the scent of simmering garlic and oregano, the ghost of my father, a benevolent and welcome presence. My brothers? They left town, their tails between their legs, their legacy one of greed and failure. I hear they're working in sales somewhere, selling something soulless and mass-produced. It suits them. As for me, I am where I was always meant to be. I am the keeper of the flame, the guardian of the golden lantern. And every night, as I watch the familiar faces of my customers, their stories unfolding at the tables my father built, I am reminded that the most important ingredient in any recipe, in any life, is the one that cannot be bought or sold, the one that is given freely from the heart, and it is a flavor that never fades.